to Sober University, your next step to successful recovery, with Cheryl Adler, who says if you are going to crave anything, crave living life to the fullest, maximize all you have, and squander nothing. This program provides information to help you get your physical, mental, and spiritual house in order. And now, the host of Sober University, Cheryl Adler.
Good evening. Tonight's show is sponsored by me, Cheryl Adler, and my book, Sober University, Your Next Step to Successful Recovery. Buy my book from any online bookseller such as Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And if you should live in Rockland County, buy my book at Pickwick Books on Broadway in Nyack, New York. Visit my website at soberuniversity.com or call me anytime at my office, 845-358-4652, or here at my home away from home, rocklandworldradio.com. Our chat room is now open, so log on or call 353-2910, area code 845, and be part of the conversation tonight. I heard a dog barking. I'm with my dog. I hope they're going to join the conversation because their questions, their comments, and their feedback matter a great deal to me. Riley Sloan and Bonehead.
And my Bonehead.
And Bonehead, I love you so much. And guess what, Charlie? Mama is not listening, so we can say anything we want.
Oh, well, you know what? What would I say? What could I possibly say?
Well, your picture is up and you look as handsome as ever. And I want to thank you for taking time to spend this half hour or however long we decide to chat away.
Well, now for me, it's 20 minutes. Go!
Hurry up already, because tonight we're going to talk about thinking outside the box and how that can enhance your sober lifestyle. So, what would you like to say about how thinking outside the box has enhanced your life?
Well, I don't think I've ever been inside the box in particular, so I can only say from my experience that living my life very clearly and playfully and doggily.
Oh, and by the way, we really need to introduce you, so please let us know who I'm speaking with.
You introduce me. I know who I am.
This is my beloved brother, who is a remarkable human being, and he is an Emmy Award-winning actor and director, Charlie Adler, hailing from L.A.
Yeah, which, by the way, now, I was laying down waiting to call you on the lawn with the dogs. I was looking up, and I watched this amazing plane at about 40,000 feet, and all I could think of was, they're going so fast, those fools, how do they do it? So now, but in the spirit of that, then I'm laying here going, how does that apply? Well, it really applies. If people thought inside the box, they would not be flying.
You know, you're scaring me, Charlie, because while I was kind of hanging out earlier today, I was thinking about Amelia Earhart.
Well, we're on the same page. We're on the same page. Look at that. But you and I have always been on the same page.
What a shock.
That's a little scary. A little scary. Two peas in a very strange pod.
A strange pod, yes.
You know what? I think that being an artist is outside the box. So I was born kind of an artist, and so for me to speak with any kind of authority about it would be kind of disingenuous because I don't know any other way of being. However, there have been periods in my life that I have been in self-imposed boxes where I felt that my thinking was very small or my dreams were not expanded, they were contracted, where I was getting habitual about certain elements of my life, including my work and the way that I was going about approaching my work and even my career. So those were the times that I made the most growth, not those coming out of those times were when I had the awareness of my own, that I was stifling myself or in some way shrinking myself. You know, there were lots of excuses, exhaustion, frustration, blah, 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 blah. But the bottom line is, for me, anytime I have made a great, huge leap, and it has come from really having a hard, long look at what I was doing or wasn't doing, and really just having to rattle my own stinky little cage. And those were the times that made the best choices that I've made come at the end of it.
And tell us what happens when people are stuck in the box and that place where there is fear that can sometimes be literally paralyzing, that can keep people stuck in the past and unable to see any sort of a future for themselves. How can people break out of that?
Well, I can tell you from an acting or directorial standpoint, because it's really all the same. I mean, my work is my work, and I'll use it as a perspective, but as a human being, it's all the same. So I'll tell you that I do teach acting, I do teach workshops, and the one thing that we all have in common is abject terror.
Abject terror.
Abject terror. Everybody has fear. Anyone who tells you they don't have fear is lying.
That's
Fear
true.
is the great equalizer, and
Yeah.
this I know to be true because when I started to direct, and when I was fortunate enough to direct Oscar-winning, Tony-winning, Grammy-winning, huge international names, what I started to realize very, very quickly is that they all came in with their own fear set as well, and that they were in a box. They were talking about being in a box. The box was, I have so much I have to prove. I've never done this before. What if they don't like me? What if I can't do this? Now, the manifestation of that fear may become arrogance or rudeness or aloofness or whatever. But if you can see through it, which I've been lucky enough to do because I recognize it, is the way to break that is to be able to identify it. So what I have been able to do from a directorial standpoint is really just connect to somebody and say, I get that you're scared. I totally get it.
So you acknowledge the fear, and in acknowledging that, which I think is part of our human condition, and I agree with you, I really believe that fear should be our advisor. It should be there to remind us of the possibilities of where we can take ourselves, and rather than the fear own us, which I fear is what happens to so many people, is they get stuck in their own rut and they can't. Go ahead.
Well, with good reason. And the reason is, if you feel, and I'll go back to an acting standpoint. When I'm trying to teach people to relax or to become something or take chances, the one thing I came down to, and I had this great epiphany about a year ago. I was teaching up north in Sausalito, and I kept hearing this phrase over and over: "Get out of your own way." The teacher said, "I have to get out of my own way." Everybody's saying, "Get out of my own way. I have to get out of my way." And it started to really bug me. And I finally thought, what am I reacting to here? And I realized what it was. It sounded like just another bumper sticker or another jingle that people say that have absolutely no meaning whatsoever.
Right.
So I could say to somebody, just get out of your own way. The question is, what does that mean and how can I? And I realized that what being in your own way is that where you allow, what you just said, where you allow fear to dictate it. But getting out of your own way is easier said than done, because the only way you can conquer fear is to actually try something that terrifies you, either in small bites or large bites, and fall down and get up. And once you get up, thank you, Riley, once you get up, once you are able to just get through an experience of discomfort or fear or abject terror, once you fall down and scrape your knee and find out that you can live with that discomfort or that pain or that bleeding or whatever, you then say, gee, I really could do that. And that's how you begin to get out of your own way, certainly as an artist, because you go, oh, I mastered that. That is the beginning of developing a muscle, and I imagine it's the very same thing in dealing with addictions or changing one's behavior or changing one's life or doing anything. Is you have to start to develop a new muscle. That's will come with soreness.
You know, I think I would like to just reflect on that, because what you're saying is very empowering for those who would not be cowardly and retreat from the fear, but to be able to fall down, break the bone, heal the bone, and say, I'm better for that. Now I'm going to take ski lessons, or I'm going to do something that I never tried before, instead of retreating to something from their past or a fear belief that keeps them so stuck that there is no chance to grow. And so you're right. Growth comes from the discomfort. And we all have to be able to get through that discomfort. We've got to for lack of a better way of saying it, to suffer for the good, not suffer as a martyr for something old and tiresome, but to do it for something that matters in changing your health, your wealth, your success, the love in your life, all of that.
But I think it's a comparative statement, suffering. Suffering, when people say suffering, like you just said, I always go to a very extreme thing, but sometimes it's more the discomfort of, sometimes it's just shifting your paradigm. So you go, I'm going to say hello back to somebody.
Yes.
Sometimes they're very small things. Sometimes it's not some huge life-changing thing. I'll tell you that, I have a gym in my house, and I get into a rut. And when I decide that I'm really getting lazy or I'm not really getting the results I want anymore, whatever, I completely change my routine, and I am so sore for a week or two. Tearing down muscle is what builds muscle. So tearing down something, sometimes you have to deconstruct in order to reconstruct.
Yes.
And I think that's anything you do. But in order to do that, I believe that you first have to be onto yourself. You first have to know how you approach something. You first have to have an awareness and a willingness. And then at the same time, like we talked about last show, you also have to be able to laugh at it. Because often what we fear the most is absolutely when you get to it and you've passed it. Not everything is jumping out of an airplane without a parachute. Not everything is that extreme. Some things are just simple. Some things are very, very small, but and I think people can't always eat a buffet at one time. You got to take small bites to get through things. So I think that's the same thing with fear. I think you take a very small bite of something that makes you afraid, and you chew it and you swallow it, and you go, okay, it didn't taste great, but I'm alive. And then you do the next thing for the greater good. I think you just said it, for the greater good. Isn't it? You said something like that?
Yeah, and I don't mean suffering in some martyr kind of a way. I meant it as a statement of sometimes we are in places of discomfort, and rather than retreat from the discomfort, we should move through it. So if an addict is trying to quit drinking or drugging, it's just do the next right thing. Put one foot in front of the other. Get yourself to a meeting. Thinking outside of the box for an addict is to be able to acknowledge the pattern and say, I've got to break this pattern. And you don't have to be an addict. You can be, just like you said, you want to go in your gym, or you want to get a new job, you want to start something new, you want to explore a new interest in life. Get out of your way and let that thing happen. Give birth to it. Let it have life.
I think that one of the things that might inspire that decision to make that shift or that change can come from a statement that I make to myself is, well, I'm afraid to do that, or this will make me uncomfortable. I don't want to do that. And then my answer is, what, you having such a great time now, schmo? I mean, comparatively, you have to look at where you actually are and go, is it working for you?
Exactly.
How's that working out for you, Charlie? How's that fear working out for you?
That's right. How is being stuck where I am really working out for me? And can I do better?
And I think everybody can do better. I mean, there's nobody on earth who can't do better.
I agree.
And it is. I think the decision making is harder than the actual doing, because to shift your paradigm or to change your thinking is often a harder thing to do, because it's what glues people together, is how we perceive this false sense of security of what our life is. And as an artist, there are so many things that one does that you get safe in your work. You go, well, phew, I got through that one. I got through that show, or I got through that job or whatever. I have to repeat that. If I repeat that, I'll be okay. And ultimately, that puts you as an artist in your own box. So there's always this thing to reinvent and need to reinvent. Because if you don't, you are in a very small box, and it's a self-imposed box.
Yeah, and it's really hard to breathe in there, isn't it?
Certainly is.
Certainly is. Especially when they put the nails in there. It makes it really tough.
Well, I'm just going to have them fry me. Screw the nails.
Yeah, screw the nails. But I think people put themselves in those boxes every single day, whether they're artists or non-artists. It's the limitations of just sticking to a routine that deadens a person. It numbs a person. It doesn't make them connect in a lively, animated way to themselves or to the people around them or to their life.
That's a dog. Sorry.
Hey, I'd like a translation of that.
Well, here you are. We're talking out of the box. I'm doing an interview in my yard. I'm not sitting in a booth somewhere.
Isn't
I'm
that
outside.
wonderful? I can picture where you are. I can picture that. How glorious for you.
Sorry to ruin the interview with my yappity dog.
Hardly it's a welcome interruption, because I can see them running around in the beautiful, beautiful grass.
Me too. I'm looking at them right now. But you were talking about artist or non-artist. I think you're right. It's a human condition to decide to move something. But again, I have to keep saying this to you. The only times that I have ever made any growth is once I understood or realized that I was stuck someplace. And the demonstration, the proof of being stuck someplace is that I would find myself going, God, nothing's happening, or I'm not, I'm feeling the same thing, or, I'm depressed, or all that stuff. Movement is a really important thing. We all have to move. We all have to move and make changes. Sometimes it's just moving, physically moving. It's the weirdest thing.
No, it's
the energy.
It's absolutely right. There's a wonderful AA slogan: "Move a muscle, change a thought." And
I love that. That's great. That's true. I think that's true.
It's very true, and I advise people to stay in motion. It's harder to hit a moving target anyway.
It is, and I think you also, people tend to chew on themselves emotionally, and if you are in a state of doing something else, again, I go back to acting. Acting, if you're doing something in a scene, you're not really thinking about the words. You know what the scene is about, and you know what you're feeling, and then you are involved in the action of the scene, and the action of the scene sort of dictates how it goes. You're not focusing on what you're saying. You're focusing on the feelings while you're doing something else. So an acting exercise is often to have a physical action involved in a scene, so that you're placing it in a real place and you're shifting the energy. You're not holding the energy to a thought or to the words or to what the words mean. You're just living it. And I think that applies to everything. If when you walk or when you move or when you run or whatever you do, it moves the energy around. You can't just focus and chew on yourself. You've got to sort of process the information differently.
You do, and I'm thinking about how people often go to far-off places where real deep shifts happen inside of them because they took themselves out of the familiar environment, they took themselves out of the routine, and they allowed their mind to expand because they weren't constrained by the typical routine, the typical day that would dictate what would come next.
So I think that's probably a profound life-changing event. When you were saying that, I was thinking about how many people I have known who have gone to, great lengths to survival stuff, where they've gone on those wires and they,
Yes.
slide down holding whatever they're called, and they challenge themselves physically, things that terrify them the most, and they find out that they really have a great strength and a great ability to focus and to change things and to cope with things, and which they otherwise would not have known if they just sort of stayed, in their day-to-day. So I think there's so much to be said for shifting your paradigm. When you're suffering, it's hard, as you know. It's so hard to make those changes because when you're in terrible pain or you're in a terrible state of loss, you're in a state, and you're in a state of being that's very, very hard to shift. But people that I have known, including myself, who have been in deep, deep, deep grief, have been able to sort of process their grief better and quicker and more effectively and in a more whole way when they didn't just indulge in being in the grief. You're going to be in grief no matter what, so you may as well do something while you are in that grief to shift the energy. Easier said than done, but true nonetheless.
I would also like to go back to the whole idea of getting out of your own way, thinking outside of the box, not necessarily going to an ashram in India in order to have some great epiphany, which I think does happen for many, but you, as somebody who I know has been meditating for many, many years. I would like it if you could share what that going inward experience does to thinking outside the box.
It expands it's very calming, it's very centering, it expands my consciousness. It gives me a great sense of calm and balance. It removes a lot of the noise from my life, a lot of the imposed emotional minutes that would otherwise happen. It's like picture having gauze over your eyes. You just see enough to navigate. But when you meditate, when I have meditated and I open my eyes from a meditation, everything is utterly, visually crystal clear. My mind has rested. My spirit has rested. I have completely, I find myself coming out of it smiling so hard my face hurts because where I tend to go, and I have to say this, and it's the last thing I'm going to say because I have to go. But
okay.
In thinking out of the box, even in my meditations every day, I have had to find different ways to meditate and different places to meditate. I have, in the last 6 months, moved my meditation from a particular place in my home or outside to someplace else to sort of shift my own energy and my own where I do it, so it doesn't become a routine thing. It's a necessity, but it doesn't have to be the same.
Right, and how does that affect thinking outside the box for the day? Is there a carryover, or is it just a lovely feeling that you have for the time that you're...
It's a hugely profound, impactful event because it removes any walls that I have around myself. It makes me available to be able to be in the moment and to be present and to be calm, and it also makes me available to see opportunity to be much more connected to the people I'm with. I am grounded. I don't go in with any armor. So for the rest of the day, every day, it completely removes walls for me. It opens everything. There's no ceiling. There's no I'm free falling. And what I've learned is that I can free fall because I have a very huge emotional parachute that I've built over the years by falling and picking myself up and breaking bones and having the bones knit. And over time, when you survive certain levels, degrees of things that test different emotional muscles that you have and spiritual muscles that you have, you find that you really just can show up with no fear. And I'm not saying I don't have it. I have quite a lot of fear. I have a lot of stage fright, which I have obviously mastered in my career. But it's still present. I just have to approach it differently. My meditation sort of removes it and says, okay, you can do it. Go. It's pretty simple. It's very strange, the power of this event, this daily event. But I will not go without it any more than I would go without having water or food or laughing. Must have it. Must have it.
Must have it. Laughter, for sure. Can't live without it.
No, and meditation and everything that comes with it have enhanced my life profoundly.
It certainly has. It certainly has. Are you running off now?
I have to run off.
You have to run off. Well, I want to say, I love you, my brother. You are one of the most...
I love you, my sister.
Thank you. You're one of the most inspiring, passionate, connected to life human beings I have ever had the honor to know.
Thank you.
And you're a lot of fun.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I know we'll be laughing on the phone very soon. So
well, I'll be laughing at somebody tonight, usually myself. I love you. Have a great rest of the show. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, you're so welcome, and we'll have you back again.
That'll be lovely.
Because, you have gotten all those smiley faces on every single audition.
I got an A+.
I know.
Right, I have to go.
You have an A+, Uncle Charles. I do see that.
Oh, God, here we go.
Oh, and I'm talking to you from Dog Heaven, where we have a 24/7 buffet, and there's no calories involved.
See? So there you go. Death is no longer frightening. We're there.
Death is no longer frightening, Uncle Charles. I'm having the time of my life.
I love you. I'm hanging up. I'll talk to you later.
TTFN. I'm going to hang up the phone and continue the show. Love you.
Bye. Love you too. Bye.
Okay, so we're going to have to wrap up the show. I had prepared a lot of material to read to you tonight on Thinking Outside the Box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my brilliant webmaster post it on my website where you can catch it yourself at your own leisure. Probably give it about a week to show up, and hopefully you'll find those words inspiring. In the meantime, I want to leave you with a Robert Frost poem, which I think is so much connected to thinking outside the box. So here we go. The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost, who I fell in love with when I was just a little girl. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So I encourage all of my listeners to rethink the road that you're on. Are you on the road you really want to be on? Have the courage, have the stamina, have the guts, have the bravery to think outside the box. Take that next step in your life. Do it with courage. Do it with faith. That's all the time we have for now. Thanks for spending this time with me. Next week we have an encore guest whom you all love, Dr. Jessica Downing, who my dogs also love, veterinarian from the Valley Cottage Animal Hospital in Valley Cottage, New York, who will share more with us on pet therapy for all of us pet lovers and those who may be thinking of adopting a cat or a dog this spring. What a great time of year to bring a pet into your life. I'm thinking of bringing Bracha and Lily to the studio. I'm going to have to ask my producer what he thinks about that. They are the lights of my life, and when you see them, even if it's by photo, you will know why. My beautiful canine children. Okay, once again, you can reach me here at my home away from home, soberuniversity.com, my office 845-358-4652, and contact me anytime, soberuniversity.com or rocklandworldradio.com. Until then, remember, if you're going to crave anything, crave living your life to the fullest, maximize everything you've got, and squander nothing. Thank you. Good night.